What's up, Met fans? Welcome back. Talking Mets and Rob. How's everybody doing? Before I get started talking about Bob Melvin and the potential deal with the Mets and the A's to bring Bob Melvin to the Mets, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy all my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, hit on that subscribe button, everybody, and let me know in the comments what you think of this potential deal that the Mets would give for compensation to bring Bob Melvin to the Mets and be the manager going forward from 2022 and beyond. Let me know in the comments, guys. All right, guys. So there is a lot of rumors going out there over the last day or two about the Mets and the Oakland A's striking a deal to bring Bob Melvin to be the next manager of the New York Mets. Obviously, there's been a lot of crazy news over the last couple of days about David Stearns and Billy Beane taking themselves out of the running to be the Mets president of baseball operations. The Brewers didn't give permission to talk to David Stearns to the Mets, so they couldn't speak to him, and apparently Billy Beane took his name out of the running as well. And we also know about Theo Epstein not wanting the position with the Mets. So the Mets are down to a very limited amount of candidates for the president of baseball operations. So I think they're trying to move forward as quickly as possible with Alderson, trying to make a move for Bob Melvin and trying to get a manager in place, which is probably not the best way to go. But in all honesty, though, the Mets don't have a lot of options when it comes to candidates for president of baseball operations. And it seems like GM is probably far out there as well. So the Mets can't wait days and months to decide a manager when basically a front office is not even put together, because they can't just wait around and not make decisions. Things have to get done. So the latest news that has been out there is the Mets are working on a deal to bring Bob Melvin over from the A's to be the next Mets manager. Now, what does that entail? What does that mean? Well, that means the Mets have to give player compensation to the Oakland A's because Bob Melvin is still under contract with the Oakland A's. You know, they can't just hire somebody that has a contract. It's just that simple, guys. So what could possibly be a player compensation for a manager that is under contract? We talked about this in my other videos about David Stearns and Billy Beane, guys who have contracts with other teams. But if the teams give permission to the Mets to make a deal to bring those guys to the Mets, they have to give player compensation. It doesn't happen often when a team would have to give up players for a front office guy or a manager to come to their team. But that's what has to get done. But what would it take to get Bob Melvin over to the New York Mets? Now, Billy Beane is not a stupid guy. He's been with the Oakland A's organization for 20 plus years. He probably knows the Mets farm system inside and out because he knows how to develop talent. We've seen that with the Oakland A's year after year. So what would the Mets have to give up? What would Billy Beane and the Oakland A's want in return to give Bob Melvin to the Mets? Well, I was thinking, well, it's got to be a top 10 prospect, no? It just makes sense. They're not just going to give their manager, and now they have to find a manager for basically nothing. So I'm thinking, can it be somebody in our top 10? It's very possible. And that is a little worrisome to me. Is the reason why I did not want Bob Melvin in the first place as a candidate for the New York Mets. And that's the biggest concern that I'm going to have right now, because I'm telling you right now, guys, Bob Melvin is going to cost the Mets a top 10 prospect. Now, we're going to look at the Mets prospect top 10 updated prospect list right now so we can figure out who would the Mets give. Now, would it be two prospects, maybe a top 10 and maybe a lower level prospect? I think it could be just one top 10 prospect, but we also have to figure that one out. It's very, there's not a lot of news out there about what could the Mets give up to get Bob Melvin to the Mets. And that's the reason why I did not want the Mets to go after a candidate where they would have to go with compensation. Because not only are you taking a player out of your top 10 and giving it to another team for a manager, which how many wins can a manager actually add on to the total amount of wins for the Mets? I don't really know. I mean, you could say Luis Rojas cost the Mets 5 games, but can Bob Melvin increase the Mets by 5 to 6, 7 games other than a player, an impact bat? I don't really know. But it's just not something that I'm really looking forward to. And that's the biggest concern. So we're going to look at the Mets top prospect list right now, guys, and we're going to go over it. So, obviously, our number 1 prospect is Francisco Alvarez. The updated list put Brett Beatty at number 2. Ronnie Mauricio 3, Matt Allen 4, JT Ginn 5, Mark Vientos 6, Alex Ramirez 7, Khalil Lee 8, Robert Dominguez 9, and then we have the top 10 list of Carlos Cortez at number 10. Now, I don't think the Mets are that stupid and give away Francisco Alvarez. That's just insane to me. And I don't think that's a smart move at all. I don't think they'll do that. The way Brett Beatty is showing how good he actually is, I don't think Brett Beatty is going anywhere. Ronnie Mauricio, again, I've told you this over the last couple of months. Ronnie Mauricio, I thought was trade bait from day one, ever since they signed Lindor. And then the news that they might actually sign Baez, and who knows about Carlos Correa, with Correa as well. There's just so much to think about with that. So Ronnie Mauricio could be an option to give to the A's. Is it Matt Allen? I don't really know, coming off of Tommy John. JT Ginn, the same thing, coming off of Tommy John. Pitched a little bit in 2021. Mark Vientos, who's rising up the depth charts in the prospect list of the New York Mets over the last year and a half. I don't know if he's going to be an option either, because he might be actually be an option at third base even before Brett Beatty. So Mark Vientos might actually be on the Mets opening day roster. Khalil Lee, I don't really know. He might be a part of the bench in 2021, but could the Mets give up Khalil Lee? Robert Dominguez and Carlos Cortez are options as well, but let's be honest, guys. Billy Beane is not stupid. He knows what he's doing. He is going to look for a guy like a Ronnie Mauricio, a Mark Vientos, maybe a pitching prospect in Matt Allen and JT Ginn. So there's a lot of guys we have to look at here. So, are the Mets just going to make a deal because they really want Bob Melvin and give up what is necessary to get Bob Melvin? I don't think that's the smartest move, and it's why I think Buck Showalter is the guy. And there's other candidates out there where you don't have to give nothing but money. The Oakland A's are going to want a player. Maybe 2 players. And that's probably a top 10 prospect and a lower level prospect. It's not a smart move for the New York Mets to get Bob Melvin, even though he is a good manager. He's been a good manager for basically his entire career. But are you willing to give up a top 10 prospect for a manager when you can easily go out there and get managers who are good to great candidates just for money, just to get Bob Melvin away from the A's and give up a top 10 prospect? That is utter nonsense. And I want to show you something right here, guys, that John Heyman tweeted yesterday for SNY.TV, and it looks like this. Are the A's willing to make a deal with the Mets for Bob Melvin? Many baseball people feel it could happen. And obviously, he also talked about Jerry Blevins played for Melvin, details why he is a no-brainer. But you see it right there. Many baseball people feel it could happen, that the Mets and the A's can come up with a deal to bring Bob Melvin to the Mets. I don't care how much of a no-brainer Bob Melvin might be. Is he worth enough to give up a top 10 prospect for, to bring him over to the Mets to manage them? I mean, seriously, guys. Is it going to mean that many more wins to give up a top 10 prospect? I don't think so, guys. I want to know what your thoughts are. But I don't think it's a good move for the Mets to give up player compensation, top 10 prospect, to bring Bob Melvin over just to manage the team, when the Mets can easily go out there and get solid managers with experience just for money and keep our guys in the minors and keep our top 10 prospect list whole. And I'd rather give up a top 10 prospect for a big-time player that can actually impact this team more. That's just me, guys. So, again, guys, Bob Melvin, Mets and the A's potentially making a deal to bring Bob Melvin over to the New York Mets. What do you think, guys? Let me know. Don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy my content, want to see more, want to get notified of the latest Mets news, don't forget, guys, to hit on that subscribe button and hit that notification button, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. I really appreciate it. If you let me know, do you want Bob Melvin? Would you give up a top 10 prospect to get Bob Melvin, or you want to look elsewhere? In my opinion, I will go elsewhere. There's a lot of good candidates out there that only cost money, guys. So I want to thank you guys for watching, Met fans. And as always, let's go Mets.